a historic day in gold today. Gold was up about $51 an ounce to close above 2,500 for the first time ever. We actually closed at $2,508 an ounce. It was up 2.6% on the week. Despite this move, it happened pretty much in obscurity. Even the financial networks, I was watching CNBC a lot of the day to see if they were going to talk about gold, and they didn't talk about it at all. I mean, maybe they mentioned it when I wasn't paying attention, but when I was paying attention, I heard plenty of talk about Bitcoin, but I didn't hear any talk about gold. Bitcoin did nothing on the week. It was relatively flat. I think it's now about 59,000. It's about 20% below its all-time record high. And of course, its all-time record high set in gold was almost 3 years ago. I think Bitcoin is down about 37% over the past 3 years in terms of gold. Nobody is talking about this new high. And really, to put it in perspective, think about where gold began this century or even the millennium, right? On January of 2001, gold was still under 300. So gold, so far this century, it's been about 24 years into it, right? It's risen eightfold, more than eightfold, 8.3-fold, maybe a bit more. Contrast that to the Dow Jones. The Dow was about 10,000 when the century began. It's about 40,000 now. So the Dow's gone up 4x, gold's gone up 8x. Now, sure, the Dow has paid dividends. Gold hasn't. But as far as price is concerned, the Dow has lost half its value priced in gold over those 24 years, even though the nominal price of the Dow has gone up fourfold. But I think that the trend is going to accelerate. I think gold is going to go up more than eightfold over the next 20 years. In fact, it could do that over the next 5 or 10 years because the amount of inflation that has been created over the last 5 or 10 years dwarfs what we created during the first 5 or 10 years of the century. And we're going to create even more over the next 5 years, regardless of the outcome of the election. I'm going to talk a little bit more a bit later about what Kamala Harris is promising, which is all highly inflationary and extremely good for gold. Also, if you look at what happened in the mining stocks, they were up this week about 5%, a little over 5%, which is, not too shabby for a week. But when gold is up 2.6% to an all-time record high, you would expect a bigger move. In fact, the gold stocks as an index, as a group, did not make even a new 52-week high this week, let alone all-time highs. There were a few stocks that I own, that we own for clients in our managed accounts. Agnico Eagle. What else? IAMGOLD. I think Alamos Gold. Also Barrick Gold, interestingly enough. Those 4 stocks made new 52-week highs. I'm not sure other ones. Interesting, Barrick is the one that got downgraded to basically a sell right at the bottom in March of this year. And now it's at a 52-week high. So there were some individual names that made 52-week highs. But if you look at like the GDX, the GDXJ, those indexes still need to rally about 2.5% from here to make a new high, which they set a month ago. But when they set that high a month ago, gold never got above 2,500. The high back then was maybe about 2,480. So gold is now maybe about $25 higher than it was a month ago when the GDX and the GDXJ hit record highs. And now the gold has made a new record high that eclipses that high a month ago. The gold stocks haven't done it as well. Normally in a bull market, you would see the gold mining stocks leading the miners because, they anticipate the rise of gold. Stock markets are forward looking. Stock investors are looking at future earnings and they're factoring in the future price of gold. So normally in a bull market, the gold stocks would be leading the metal, except when you're in the really early stages of a bull market. You see, then there's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of fear and doubt. People don't believe the rally. And that's what we have now because we're early. We're at 2,500 gold and the bull market is early. Because if we were later in the bull market, the mining stocks would be leading. But that's going to happen, right? The greed, the optimism comes as the bull market progresses and more doubters throw in the towel. Because remember, a lot of people have been burned because gold went sideways for about a decade. And so a lot of people, don't believe that this rally is real. In fact, I'm sure earlier in the day, most gold stock traders thought that 2,500 was going to hold, that it would be resistance, and that gold would probably go back down. Instead, it went through 2,500 and closed above it, not only on a daily chart, but on a weekly chart. This is extremely bullish. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a huge up move next week. Now that we've cleared this 2,500 resistance, I think we might make a big move up so that 2,500 becomes the new support. Maybe we spike $100, $200 next week. We'll see. Maybe it'll start in Asia on Sunday night when their Monday morning, when a bunch of Japanese, wake up, or they look at the markets and they see the gap up in the price of gold. They may start buying some, and there may be a lot of buying in China, Australia, and Europe before Americans even get out of bed. So I think, again, I wouldn't wait for Monday. I would buy my gold right now, right? If you're planning, in fact, silver is still back below 30. It's back just above $29. So silver is an even better buy, I think, than gold, but they're both great buys. And there's no reason to wait for Monday to buy because the price could be a lot higher. I would just go to Shift Gold over the weekend and just buy whatever you can as far as what you want your allocation to be. Because I know there's been a lot of people waiting for a pullback, and I've been telling everybody on my podcast, don't wait. Even if there are pullbacks, they're not going to be big enough to make a difference. What is going to be big is the rally. I think, we're going so much higher than the current price. Whether you buy at 2,500, 2,400, 2,300 is immaterial. What is material is if you don't buy at 2,500 because you're waiting for 2,400 or 2,300 and you never get it. And the next thing you know, we're at 5,000. And then you're like, well, I'll buy a pullback to 4,500. Well, then just buy it now, right? It's a lot cheaper than buying it a lot higher. And the good news is at Shift Gold, we made it a lot easier now for you to buy gold and silver through my company. So you're not going to get ripped off 24/7 because we now have a brand new website at Shift Gold. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it's a new website, some new graphics. But the most important change is now we have live pricing 24/7 of the various products that we recommend, the gold and silver products. The prices are there, and you can buy without speaking to a representative. You have a shopping cart. You can select the coins and bars that you want. You can load it into your cart, check out, and pay. Now, we're going to have more payment options rolled out soon, but right now we have some. And you can go online and just order your gold and silver. Don't wait until late Sunday night, Monday morning when you're competing with all the Japanese and the Chinese and everybody else. Buy right now while they're out, enjoying their weekend. We can still get some good prices on these coins and bars. So that's shiftgold.com is the website. And again, if you are a risk taker, which I am, you want to have more mining stocks because these stocks, again, are so undervalued relative to the current price of gold because investors are waiting for gold prices to fall. Plus, also, the cost of mining has gone up a lot. And every time one of these mining companies comes out and they miss their earnings because their costs are up, the stocks get absolutely killed, right? Any bad news and a stock gets decimated because that's how little conviction the gold stock investors have. They're so scared. And even when, you beat earnings, the stocks go up, but not nearly as much as they should. But I think what's going to happen when you get a huge move up in the price of gold, I don't care if the costs go up. It's not going to matter because they're not going to go up anywhere near as much as the price of the metal because there's so much pent up upside that we have. I think, one of these weeks we could see gold up $500 to $1,000 in a week, right? I want to make sure that all of my listeners have all the gold they need and all the silver they need before we have that week, right? And no point waiting. I'm sure I'll get new customers then, right? When gold really starts to move, people who haven't been following me, who've never bought any, yeah, they'll eventually show up and start buying. But I want all the people who are listening to me now to already own gold. Don't wait or silver and buy it higher. But getting back to the mining stocks, this is where the big gains are going to be. Because I talked about how the price of gold is up eightfold since the year 2000. There are many gold stocks that are lower than they were 24 years ago. I mean, I own some of those. Now, I also own some that are way up, but as a group, they're not up that much. I mean, most of them are above where they were in the year 2000, but the majority are below where they were in the year 2011 when gold topped out at 1900. Most gold mining stocks are well below where they were in 2011. So these stocks are very, very cheap. They're not going to stay cheap forever, right? And while they are, you got to take advantage of it by buying them. Now, one way you could do it, if you're not sure, which ones to buy, is to buy a fund. And rather than just buying an index, why not buy my fund that is managed by Adrian Day? I think Adrian is a smart guy. In fact, he knows a lot more about mining stocks than I do. That's why I hired him to manage my fund. I didn't try to manage it myself. I wanted an expert who's been doing it for 40 years or 50 years, however long Adrian's been managing gold. He's forgotten more about gold mining stocks than most of these analysts know. But I think he's built a fantastic portfolio, especially with some of the junior companies that nobody would know about. I think that's where the biggest gains are going to come from. So anybody could just buy my gold fund. In fact, there's a no load version. So if you're not, working with one of my advisors, if you're, at Schwab or Fidelity or one of the discount brokers, no point in paying the load. I don't even get it. You're just paying it to Schwab, and so they don't need it. But you can buy the advisors class, which is no load. The symbol on my gold fund is EPGIX. That is the no load symbol. So that's the one you want to buy. But also, we have separately managed accounts at Euro Pacific Asset Management. You can call up, go to Europac.com and talk to our representatives about having your own portfolio managed by Adrian Day through Euro Pacific Asset Management. And you want to get your positions in these mining stocks as soon as possible before the world wakes up and realizes how cheap they are. Nobody is paying attention. Again, they're not talking about it on CNBC because the average investor couldn't care less about these stocks. And so CNBC doesn't even bother to cover it. Why are they talking about Bitcoin all the time? Well, because that's what their listeners care about. That's all their advertisers are advertising Bitcoin or others cryptos. Nobody is talking about gold, right? Well, that's when you want to buy it, when no one's talking about it, right? By the time everybody is talking about it, the price is going to be much, much higher. And by the time your typical, portfolio manager, whether it's a, mutual fund or a hedge fund or some of these pension plans or endowments, by the time they start buying these gold stocks, it's going to be because they are way, way up. That's what's going to put these stocks on their radar, right? The 5% move that they had this week, that's nothing. I mean, NVIDIA was up 18% or something on the week. So who cares? about these gold stocks. They're going to have to be up a lot more. But when these things are tripled, quadrupled, or more in a short period of time, yeah, they'll finally get on the radar of the mainstream, right? But I don't want my audience to wait until then. I want them to be fully invested by the time that happens.